I don't do Okay.
Okay, we're gonna get going. I want to first of all say happy Valentine's Day, everybody, or almost Valentine's Day. So, tomorrow? I think tomorrow's Valentine's Day.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, you better know that.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. Yeah, somebody to get a Valentine for?
Tomorrow, I'll take care of tomorrow. I'll get
Fair
it
enough,
over.
fair enough. You got time.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to Tina, a few topics I want to go over and talk about. One is the mini workshops. We've had 3 of them so far this season, and they were October, November, December. They went very well attended, and it was great because we had good attendance, very good attendance, full packed house each time, and it works out well because they're subsidized, so that the full cost is $25, but you pay, the artist pays $15, the association pays $10. So it works out very, very, very well. We have one more coming up this season. It's going to be in April. Let me look at my scale, make sure we got it right here. I think it's 6th, let me see. April 6th, Saturday, April 6th. And it's going to be Alcohol Inc. There's a thing in the newsletter about it. It's a brief write-up.
Alcohol, is that drinking and painting the same time?
You got it.
Sign him up.
Sign me up.
I wish we could do that. That'd be fantastic. Now, yeah. But it's going to be led by Jerry Aces. If you've been to the art gallery, Jerry does in Patriot Place. Jerry does a lot of Alcohol Inc. He was one of the first ones that I've known to do it. He's been getting better and better. I mean, he started out fantastic, but getting better and better with it.
Alcohol?
It's a whole new concept that I don't really fully understand yet, how it all works and what you use and what you do. But I'm gonna take this the session. I'm gonna attend that.
What date was it again?
It's gonna be April 6th, the Saturday, 10 o'clock, 10 to 12:30 at the Art Gallery, Patriot Place. So it's still in the future, but I wanted you to be aware of it. There's only 10 slots available, 9 now because I'm one of them. I'm already on the list.
She has 5 names, 2 already, so there's really only 4 at the opening.
Okay, 4 open, that's all?
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So it's filling up fast. So if you're interested, let me know or let Laurie know. Laurie's not here today, but let Laurie Salmons know and get you on there. And then the other thing I wanted to let you know about is, again in the future, but I want to tell you about it, is the Street Art Festival at Patriot Place is Saturday, May 18th. That's the festival where the Foxborough High School students, they manage this festival. And it's a street art festival. It's a chalk art festival at Patriot Place for all ages. You've got kids to adults doing chalk art. And it's fantastic. It's really run very, very well. And I love the fact that it's the Foxborough students who are actually running this festival. It gives them a lot of skills, a lot of management skills, leadership skills, and they've been doing it now for quite a few years, and it's fantastic. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a paint out that same day at Patriot Place at the Art Gallery. I've invited other art associations as well, so hopefully we'll have a good attendance, and I hope to have a good attendance from the Foxborough Art Association as well. So it'll be fantastic if we can do that. And more to come on that. Look at the newsletters and you'll see more information on that in the coming newsletters. And then, one of the things that, before we get to Tina, one of the things I just want to let you know is, in the December newsletter, I had mentioned that I was going to try and I set a goal to paint 2 paintings a month from December through March. And to me, that's aggressive because everything else that I do. Some people, that's not a lot. But for me, it's very aggressive because I paint very big, And just want to give you an update on that. That's 8 paintings that would have been through March. I've already done 10. I started listing all down today, and I couldn't believe that I've actually done 10 already. And I'm really enjoying it, so it's great.
How many are completed?
Yeah, they're all completed. Those are all the ones that are completed. Yeah, they really are. 4 of them already have homes, so that's really good. So. And then getting to Tina, And Tina, it's great to have you back here again.
Thank you for having me.
I think the last time you were with us, I think we were in the live.
I didn't need glasses, now I do. Okay, I'll just say that.
Yeah, 'cause I don't think we were in this spot here.
No, we were not.
We were at a church, I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
we were.
yeah, it was great. So good to have you back
Thank you.
here. Couple of things, I was just reading through the newsletter, I just want a couple of things here quickly. I'm not gonna spend much time on this, but Tina spent 14 years developing products for Hasbro, Milton Bradley, and Play School. I didn't know that, you know.
First started.
And then after leaving the corporate world, fine art became her ambition and her focus. She paints what she feels, which is what I love. I love when I read that. Not what you see, it's not what you know, what in a photograph, you paint what you feel. And she loves to capture, lighting and different lighting. It's a intense lighting. And you can explain more about
Okay.
that. And then just, welcome back, and the floor's all yours.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So,
Yay.
thank you. So, I'm Christina Beecher, or Tina, I'm good with both. I signed Christina, or C. Beecher, because it looks so much better than Tina. Nice to see you, I haven't seen you in a while.
How have you been?
Very good. So I'm gonna show you a couple of my, sort of some examples of stuff that I do. And then we'll talk about what I'm gonna do, and I'll talk about materials as I go. Questions, anytime you need it, please, just, it's easier that way for me to have a rapport with you. If you see something that you're curious about, please ask, okay? So if you're not familiar with my work, I tend to do, well, I've been doing a lot of different things lately, so I'm gonna say what I tend to do is what I call my tonal work, which is monochromes. And sometimes I add color to those, and sometimes I don't. I don't have a lot of big pieces, so I will show you, make sure that camera's on them. These are two really small pieces, and they're a little bit different colors. And both of these are landscapes, obviously. I like to work this size because it's a size that people can afford. I'll be honest with you, it's my best-selling size. This size and this size, 6x6, 5x7. The board that I'm using, that I use a lot, is gesso board. It's made by Ampersand. You can get it anywhere at any good art supply store. I don't believe Michaels has Ampersand. They have other brands, which you can try. For some reason, there's something about this particular surface that the paint slides on the way I like it, but I'm sure other surfaces would work for you to try as well. I like these because they're inexpensive. The bigger you go, the more expensive they are. The piece I'm working on here is 12 by 16. It's, so you can see the name, gesso board. It's actually called gesso board. So it's all ready to accept oil paint. Anyway, so I just want to make sure you saw that. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be working on this larger piece, and it's obviously a larger size. So it's it's not 4 times the size of a little guy, but it's easier for you guys to see. So we'll be able to do that. I use oil paints. There's a couple different brands I prefer. I love Gamblin. That's my favorite. There's a couple different grades in Gamblin now. They have a thing called 1980, which I believe is their cheaper. It has less oil in it, or has more oil, less pigment in it. But for what I'm using it for, I'm fine with that. And you'll see if you try different kinds of paint, some of it's thicker and it doesn't work as well. So I really do like Gamblin. I like their whole product line. I've kind of come full circle. I've tried other brands. I do different types of varnishing through the years, and I've kind of settled in on Gamblin is the best for what I like to do. So as we go, I'll show you all those things again, so don't worry about remembering those names. So the nice thing about this technique is that I use it for landscapes, as you see here, and I'll do that today for you, a demonstration for you. But I've expanded and used it for other things. And these are by no means finished or even good works, but I brought them because I wanted to show you that there's a gamut of work that you can be done with this technique. This was a study I did for a larger painting. These are crows. So I tried it on the actually plain board. It is protected. There is a surface on there that will accept the oils. I try to be as archival as possible. So I put the pieces, the work on, and I wiped off the parts. And again, I'll show you all that. But I just want to show you that this can be done in lots of different.
Christina, what'd you treat the board with?
That was sized and PVA size. Thank you. Yeah. And you can do that with paper too. I was going to show that that's another surface that's really great to work on. This is 2 pieces of paper that I had mounted at the frame store that I go to, the Happy Hollow Flame Shop in Mansfield. She mounted it on an archival board, and then I sized it. So what's within this border is the paper part. Beautiful thing about paper is that it's really, for me, it kind of reminds me, don't be worried about it so much. It's really inexpensive, and you can do a lot of work. And I believe to be a decent painter, you have to paint a lot. And you have to have a lot of really bad paintings. You might get 1 or 2 good ones. Sometimes they pop out of you like nothing, but sometimes you just work and it's not going anywhere. So I started working on paper a long time ago, and I switched over to board, but I'll go back to paper when I get kind of stuck, when I feel like I'm wasting. This is Arches watercolor paper. And I've kind of gone full circle with that too. I preferred the rough for a while, and now I'm probably going towards smoother. The rough will give you some really interesting shows, and I was planning on showing you what it looked like on here. That would be, I'll do this one maybe after the break that you have. I'll do a quick one on here too, so you can see the difference.
You put
Because
PVA on that or gel?
yes, PVA. Yep.
How many coats?
2 or 3, yeah. And I do have some handouts. I'm happy to let you have those afterwards, so you can, if you're worried about any of these supplies I'm mentioning.
Christina, is that 140-pound paper, pad paper?
I prefer if it's on the pad, yeah, that's perfect. I have used the 300-pound. It takes longer to size it, it gets just bigger and bulkier. So that would work fine, yeah, 140-pound. Other things I'll show you real quick. I was doing a thing for the Attleboro Arts Museum. This is by no means finished or done, and this was one of the ones I threw away, did not hang. But the beauty is that you can use this technique for anything. So I'm just pointing that out. It doesn't have to be landscapes.
Is that your daughter?
This is not my daughter. This was my girlfriend's daughter.
She has lots of guys like you.
This was a fun project I did for the museum. They were doing a then and now project where they have old things from their vault, and then artists had to be inspired by them. So I saw this girl look at me, and my thing that I was looking at was a young boy. So she kind of looked like maybe she could be his sister. So that's how that came about. So that's another example. And then 2 other things I'll show real quick. These are 2 little quick abstracts that I'm just fooling around with. There's no other colors except I do mix the blues. There's more than one blue there. And I'm just looking at shapes, form, and just sort of exploring a different side of me. So again, it's still the same technique. I put the paint on and I take it off, which is what I'll be showing you in a moment. And then finally, I don't know if we'll have time. After I do my tonals, which again, this is what this is, a tonal. If I feel like it, and I don't always feel like it, depends on the day, I might take it to what I call the next step, which is adding some color. And depending on the day, I might make it more of a fall scene, which is what this is with the oranges, or it might be a summery day, which wouldn't have maybe as much orange. So these aren't done. This is probably 2 days worth of work, and I work on them at the same time. I like doing that, and there's a reason for it, because maybe one will work, but at least I got practice on 2. So I got 2, maybe one works, maybe both. If they both work, you're golden. If only one works, maybe you learn something from the other painting. So that's why I like to work. If I'm working small, I always work in pairs. Sometimes I work on one a little bit, then I'll work on the other, and I'll come back to this one. I'll see something over here that's better than over here. I'll go back and forth. Sometimes I use the same colors, sometimes I don't. This case, it was sort of the same colors. So we'll see if we have time for that. Because if we do, we'll do it on these little guys that I did here. All right, so let's get right to it. Any other questions before I start? I'll start talking about materials a little bit more. All right, so I like to always wear gloves, and I'm really fussy about that. Anyone who's worked with me knows that oil paints are just not good for you. So you don't want them on your hands. Plus, your cat's gonna walk in, and you're gonna want to pet them. With the gloves on, you don't want to pet them, so you take the gloves off. Otherwise, they have green paint on their tails. Yes, it's happened. So I like these little quick cleanse you can buy a big box of them at BJ's. Come take off. They do get kind of warm. In summer, it's kind of sticky and they're hard to get off, but you know, they're cheap, so you can throw them away, because once they come off, they kind of get yucky. Some of the supplies that I'm going to explain to you today, obviously a good sized paintbrush. This one's been well loved. It's soft enough that I think I can get the paint for it, but I kind of beat them up. Some people are better about taking care of their supplies than I am, but I think this might do the trick. You can get inexpensive brushes even at Home Depot. I got this one over there, and I love it. It's not an artist brush, but it does the job. So you don't have to go super expensive on your brushes. I just like a nice sturdy brush for this first part. And as far as like mixing your paint and palettes, I do have a regular sized palette. But when I'm doing a tonal, I see no reason to waste that. And I mean, you get these all the time, right? You must use them too, right, Chris?
Yes, I do.
These are like my favorite things ever. My husband's like, "Are you washing that one too?" And because I have to put them to the dishwasher because you don't put anything on them. So I have them stacked like beyond belief in my house. And I sometimes don't mind the dark ones because if I'm using a tonal, I like it dark. Sometimes when I'm using brighter colors, I prefer the white so you can really see it because that's what, this is going to be white against white. So, and like I said, I do have a turn. This is Gamsol. It's odorless mineral spirits. I don't know if they call it that. Is that mineral spirits? It's a type of mineral spirits. Doesn't mean it's not toxic. However, you don't smell it. So I think it's as good as it can be. Gamblin is Gamblin is really careful. They're really, that's what I like about them. They're really progressive about their products. They have, if you go online and look at Gamblin products, there's a gentleman that runs their whole product line, and you can just hit and video stream any process that they suggest. Of course, it's benefiting their products, but I believe in them, so maybe I'll work for them someday.
And if you call them, they're very good too.
I've emailed the guy. He's super nice. It's the same guy in the video. So I think it's one guy that does all that stuff. And you've talked to him?
Yep.
Scott? His name's Scott something? Yeah. All right, so we're going to get right to it so we get cracking here. I didn't bring every paint I have, but I did bring a selection here. I don't always know what I'm going to do when I start out, and I think that's really kind of, for me, that's important to be freer about it. If I think too hard about, I'm going to paint this marsh, or I'm going to paint this, or I'm going to paint that, then I feel I feel it a little tight. So I do have to have some idea, and I also have some idea what colors I'd like to start with. Sometimes I feel like browns, and sometimes I like the more golds and more reddish. I don't even know if I have a reddish one here. This is obviously a little bit more red than this one, right? So we're gonna see. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet today. So I'm gonna start with Asphaltum, cobalt blue, and orange. That's my simpler recipe. I'm gonna use orange sparingly because for one, it's expensive. Again, I'm using the 1980. Some people think it's like more student grade, but I don't care. I'm using it as an underpainting, so I don't really care. Asphaltum is another just dark brown. It's just a dark brown. And the cobalt. So the blue and the brown are going to make sort of a nice dark umbre color. I sometimes use burnt umber. That's actually a color I probably would more typically use. But I didn't have any. so I'm not going to have it today. Pardon me? Yeah, you can certainly use it straight from the tube. No, I never use it straight from the tube. I know, I just can't stand doing that. But there is a nice sepia color that you can buy. It's called sepia. I brought it today. We could try using that today, maybe on the other one. So here's my brown, here's my blue. Those are the two colors I'm going to use first. And juicy this paint is. So juicy. probably gonna need more for this because it's such a large piece.
Are you gonna add any medium to that?
Yep, I'm gonna use a medium called pale drying oil. Now, it's probably not the most archival, and I know that from a friend of mine. But I love it. Okay, I love it. It does exactly what I want it to do. Now, if you ask me what it does, I really don't know. Does it dry it quicker? I don't know. But I do know that it makes the paint slip the way I want it to slip. And as artists, we all know it's a feel, right? So I have tried other things. Gamblin does make a couple different oils. They use a Galkit oil, way too thick. It thickens it up. It makes it, I like it, but it makes it kind of harder. I can't explain it. So it doesn't do what I want it to do. So I haven't really fell in love with linseed oil, but Gamblin does, provide that too. So I'm gonna make more because I know I need more.
So you don't use like Galkit gel?
I haven't been able to enjoy those. They don't seem,
Really?
do you like it?
Yeah.
You do. The gel? Do you use it for your underpaintings?
I mean, I'll use it, yeah, and, I don't have to use it all the time, but I like it for extending the paint.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. I haven't tried,
That's why I use it.
I haven't gone back to it.
It doesn't seem to dilute the paint per se, but it does
Yeah.
extend it.
Yeah. When I want to dilute my paint, I use Grumbacher's blending and glazing medium.
Mhm.
That's what I like for that. Now, again, I think we all get kind of stuck, and I am a little stubborn and stuff, so I should try some new things. Anyway, so I'm gonna mix a little bit more.
Don't fix it.
Well, yeah, no, I believe in being as archival as we can.
Right.
Is it really gonna matter? No, for me, I don't know.
I always said too.
I'll be dead.
Take it up at the center.
They can't call me 30 years from now.
Right, I'll be gone. So I'm just gonna skirt a little of this orange in there. And the orange is just gonna give it a little warmth, that's all. That's what I like about a little bit of orange. And I usually will, because I really can't tell what color it's gonna be yet until I put it on a piece of paper. So that's what's nice about having paper nearby. And I brought some, so I'm just gonna test it real quick, see if I like the color. And also see if I like this brush, this hard, rocky hard brush.
Sit in on it.
I know an artist that he would give his brushes to someone who would fix them for him. I'm like, I'm not, he hammered them or something. I don't do that. So here's that Grumbacher pale drying oil. I haven't found it at Michael's. I usually get this online.
I
I'm
had to buy it online too.
I think I've seen it I used to sell it at Michael's and they don't sell it anymore. I don't use a lot of it.
Is Japan drying oil the same thing?
It might be.
I bought some of that one time.
What is it called? Japan?
Drying oil.
Do you know? Never heard of it?
Yeah, there was something, because I went in looking for it and they didn't have it. What about this? And I said, oh, give it to me. And I ended up, I ended up getting the pale, the drying oil.
Is that because I
poured it for
suggested it a
Well,
long
yeah,
time ago?
we were painting.
Oh,
We were
yeah,
all
yeah,
painting
yeah,
one
yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
I think I sent away for like 4 of them.
Yeah. It's not expensive. It's like $8 or something. I'm just gonna drop a few on there. You can use a little eyedropper. That would make more sense what I'm doing. And I'm not putting a lot because what I don't want is it to be too slippery. That was like 3 drops. And sometimes, I hate to say it, the day can make the paint slip more if it's too humid. If your paint's been in your cold studio, mine's over my garage, so it does, it doesn't, it gets thick and sticky, So sometimes you need a little bit more oil. I love this. Look, there's a built-in handle right there, right? That's what these are for.
You had us
My
saving them too.
My husband makes fun of me. I'm like, no, you have no idea. You just saved a lot of money. Let's see. That's right. I just toss them when I'm done. So that's the basic color. I'm good with that. Maybe a little bit darker. Let's make it just a little bit darker. So I'm going to add some more of the cobalt. Obviously, you can use ultramarine. That would make it even darker.
Well, it's expensive.
Cobalt, all of it is, But yeah, So do we have oil painters out there? Oh, quite a bit. Yeah, nice. Anybody, I know watercolor as well. I know you do both. I started there years ago, yeah. I did a couple workshops and I don't know why, but oil just spoke more to me. It was so much easier than watercolor.
Yeah. That's what I said.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Don't tell
Yes and
anybody.
no.
Oh, everyone knows. Oh, that's funny. All right, let's get going so we can get you guys.
That's true, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna just assume that my color is as good as it's gonna be for today. Hopefully I have just the right amount of oil. Sometimes I don't know that until I put it on. This is the gesso board that my friend Charlie Gay, right in front, he'll be here next month.
Next month.
And this is actually just taped to a board. And the reason why I do that is so that I have space above it and below it. That's all. It's the only reason. You could use it directly on the board, but then the board's in the way, the easel's in the way. So you need a little elbow grease here. And the goal is to get the paint on kind of as quickly as you can. You do have a good working window here. Different paints, oil painters know this, dry at different levels. So the paints I'm using are the quickest, the right amount of time for me. Certain paints, like if you were using white, which would take forever to dry, we all know that that's one of the longer colors, anything with white in it. I'm purposely going side to side right now because I know I'm doing a landscape, and landscapes at the very least should have some of that length. And as I'm doing this, I'm just sort of thinking through, what are we painting today? I've already made the decision I'm not doing it this way too. I didn't make that clear. No. Charlie, you know I do this.
Well, you just said you were thinking about.
I am thinking of it, yeah. Well, what I love to do, my favorite thing to do is skies, because for one, they're easy, but also they're abstract. So it kind of gives me that little abstract fun that we all kind of strive to, that freedom. You can do anything you want in the sky. Now, I don't use photo reference. However, certainly, if that's your comfort zone, do it. I just found that once I walked away from the photo, I was able to paint what I wanted to paint. It's hard to explain, but it just sort of came out of me more. So that's why I don't use reference anymore. That doesn't mean I don't look at reference, doesn't mean I don't look at trees, doesn't mean I don't look at photos I've taken. Doesn't look like, I take photos with my phone all the time, we all do that. But I try not to paint from it because it just stiffens everything up. Then I try too hard to make the tree in the right place instead of making the tree look right in the composition. So that's the big difference for me for not using a. So another really important part of what I do is Viva paper towels. They're the best. Don't use Bounty. Just don't bother. You can buy Bounty because they're cheaper. Clean your stuff with the Bounty, but use this for the magic. All right, so I've already decided I'm doing a landscape. We're not doing any abstracts today. I just have to determine where the horizon line is. That's always my first question that I ask, and I have to answer myself. So now I have to start paying attention. No, basic compositional rules, you don't want to put it in the center, of the page. That just kind of makes everything boring. So I can decide, here's the center, somewhere in here, right? How far up do I want and how much sky do I want? The more sky, the more fun. So I'm going to make it a lower compositional with lots of sky. So this is where I get into trouble because I do this. And so my land goes down. And it looks like my land is tipping. So I have to be a little bit thoughtful about that when they get longer. So I'm going to do my land down here. And then very first thing I do is step away so I can see, Oh yeah, I'm slipping over to the right a little bit. But that's okay because we fix it. And I am not afraid to use a ruler to get that first line in, if I have to. I try not to, but sometimes I do. So let's see if I can just, I gotta stand in front of it. And although it doesn't have to be super straight, it doesn't want, you just don't want it tipping off the edge, so it looks like the land is. Let's see how that looks. Still tipping to the right.
Same line.
Yeah, it's the same way. I know. I'm on TV, I have to be
Color
careful.
on the left. Yeah. You gotta copy done.
It's better. Whew, past that one, okay. So that first decision, done, made, finished. And that can change. That's the beauty, is this can keep changing. As long as the paint is wet, you can keep fooling with this and enjoying yourself. So I always start in this guide. One, because I love it, and two, it also starts to establish what's happening. So I think of my painting as a sandwich. The top of the painting, the middle of the painting, which is sort of the, might be the background, depends on how close you are standing to your space, and then the foreground. I always start at the top, but when I say that, it's probably more like in here. And I start to quickly determine how far away am I standing as a viewer in my painting. So that depends on how big everything is.
Your working window, how long?
6, 7 hours. But I like to work in chunks of time, and then I like to go do laundry. And there's a joke there, but it's true. You have to get away from your work. So I work, then I leave and come back. So my working window usually is about 2 hours, where the chunk of the work is done, and then I might go back and do some fine tuning for another 2 or 3 hours. It's still, yeah, but it depends on the day. If it's really humid out, it might be good for another hour. It depends on the paint, how much oil you used. If you used really high quality paint, might take less time, or might start drying, take longer to dry because it's got the right kind of oil in it. But that's a good question. All right, so I'm going to determine how far away I'm standing, but I'm going to change it a couple times so you can see that this is so flexible. So I like to physically move fast. Part of it is so that I kind of have that feel of freedom. So I'm kind of determining that maybe that's the trees way in the background. Can you see okay? And the oil's coming off just perfectly, so I put just the right amount of pale drying oil. All right. So let's start taking away a little bit more of the sky. You'll use a lot of paper towels at this stage. You can see I'm kind of twisting it because eventually it's going to get filled.
No brush cleaning?
Not yet. Good question. Yeah, that too. Yeah. You noticed I did not use any Gamsol yet at all. That's actually really important. Gamsol will take paint off really, really well. Sometimes too well. And then you're kind of stuck with this weird thing, and I'll show you that too. So what I'm purposely doing is just sort of, right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm trying to create a mood, and I'm letting the paint sort of tell me what I'm painting. I don't know yet. I do know that there's land, and there's some trees or some bushes, and there's some land in front of it. That's all I know. Now, let's put some paint back on. Let's put it back up here. If I brought it over here and all the way up here, you're obviously standing much closer, right? And less sky. I'm just giving you how quick and easy it is to change things. You can see how it's just sliding off. I like to give it a little place where it kind of goes down, the light kind of filters down a little bit. That's gonna eventually be probably my focal point, where my lightest and darkest darks are, my lightest lights and my darkest. And as I start to scrub, you can see it's coming off more, right? So as I'm taking it off, I am thinking kind of sort of, well, maybe I'm not thinking, but I'm just sort of like, sometimes it's kind of coming off and I'm flowing like a cloud would. You know, I'm not, you know, striking it one way or the other. As an artist, I'm thinking through that nature is organic and I'm trying to create organic shapes. So to do that is sort of scrubbing like how I'm doing with kind of movement like that. So I don't really have any clouds in there, it's just sort of like one. This is getting kind of worn, but you see I just keep moving it till I get a space. And you know, you see now why you really need the gloves, how dirty they get. The other thing I tend to do a lot, and it can cause sprinkles, but it's part of our job, right, is I squint. So you squint purposely to see just the shapes. If you know, some artists use bad glasses, like old glasses, and that kind of fuzzes things out. I don't really, at this stage, really don't want to be too concerned about an edge or a specific shape yet. I'm just trying to get a sense of composition. Because as I'm doing this, I'm thinking constantly composition, negative, positive space, things that, you know, it's sort of like how we're all trained. You know, you think through what makes things interesting is the shapes and such. So that's really what I want to make sure that I express to you, is that it's really all about that. Your painting is it's a problem that we're solving. The solving is to make it interesting of some sort. A landscape is certainly, anything can be a problem, but I like to look at it that way. And if I think of it that way, then I'm detached enough that I'm just thinking through shapes. And then eventually those shapes become things like a tree or a piece of land or a waterway. So that's how I kind of do my work and try to express it. So let me keep going a little bit, and maybe you guys had some questions for me as I go. I might start entering into this land in here, these trees. I use my fingernails sometimes to kind of start to create, you probably can't see that necessarily,
You can,
but
strong.
just like a tree limb maybe. And there's other tools you can use if you feel your fingers are too, you know.
You just scrubbed away the barn.
You saw a barn.
On the other side of the river there was a barn and a house.
You saw a river?
The river runs through it.
That sounds good. And one of the things I do a lot, and how many times we're in the car, you're just driving by and you see something kind of flicker. You know, you got to be paying attention to the road first. But then you're like, oh, that was cool. And it really was just the shape, you know, and those shapes kind of plant in your brain. Those are my like little photos that are in my head that I try to kind of go back to. Doesn't mean I don't take photos still, but you can't do that when you're driving. So you just got to look real quick. So I'm trying to make these trees, now I've decided that they're trees, a little bit more interesting, give them some areas of dark, areas of light, because that's really how it works, right? If you look carefully at trees, there's lots of lights and lots of darks. What I don't know is if this is I don't know if this is a tree yet, because it's not dark enough, so maybe I need to add some more paint and decide if it is a tree. It could be anything.
Tall barn.
Could be a tall barn. Or if I wasn't sure if it was part of, I wasn't sure if that tree was part of where the land was and where the sky was and where the tree was. That's all I was getting at. All right, it's time to say goodbye.
Use that one up.
I've used this one up. Yes.
Good girl.
And I brought my own garbage bag, so.
That's not the quicker picker upper, is it?
Bounty is, and I don't like Bounty. Remember I said, use that for your cleanup, not for this
Too
work.
much lunch, right?
You might, well, some people think this has got lint too, so.
It's almost like that, it's almost like a fabric.
It's like a soft fabric, yeah. Bounty it just,
Sucks it up.
it even has a nasty sound. Don't use Bounty, you're gonna like, your teeth will crawl. It's like, ah! So I wanna make one tree really kinda cool, so that's gonna be maybe this one over here. So I'm just gonna chop into it a little bit. I'm trying to get some shapes in there that make it special. So I'm gonna have some focal point, it's gonna be over here, I've decided that, so I've made some decisions that can always be changed. But for now, I've gotta start making some decisions. And this one definitely will have maybe a dead tree in front of it, you know? And then there's paint that's on there that I've just wiped off. You can use that back, and you can put it back onto something, which is kind of fun too.
That actually is kind of nice, too.
Yeah.
Like a really wild culture.
Right, so I'm gonna make this tree even more special. Maybe I'm gonna take away some of, so it has a form on the other side of it. It's not just blending into the mass of other trees. I'm trying really hard not to fall in love with this painting. That's why I use a lot of the paper. You don't want to fall in love. If you fall in love with it too much, you'll start to tighten up. So the goal here for me is to not fall in love with it yet and be willing to change things anytime something just isn't working. So just so I said that, I'm going to say, I don't like that tree, even though I said it was my special tree, and I'm just going to wipe it away. And that's really, really just wonderful to be able to do. Because one, I know I can put it back in. It won't be the same, and that's good. Or maybe I said, oh wow, I don't need that tree there. I'm gonna make my focal point maybe somewhere else. So.
Well, I fell in love with it when you had the barn on the left side.
It's always one in the crowd that wants a
Oh,
barn.
it's gonna be soft.
And I might just take the whole mass away all the way completely. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. It changes this whole thing over here. Now, what have I done?
It's what the headlands in the back, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And then there was light.
Yes.
Right, right. Maybe there's these trees and those are way, way back.
Reminds me of Jamestown with Mass.
Who doesn't love that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start working my way a little bit farther down to keep things rolling here. And we'll come back to that whether we're having a special tree there or not. So even though I struck that line's not gonna stay there. That was just for me to indicate where my sky started and where my land is. It'll stay there some way so I can see it, but. So I'm just gonna take away a little of the paint, come forward. For now it's just grass. I'm not planning much more than that right now. I'm sure that'll change. You can see I'm pulling the paint away this way as opposed to up and down, but you can certainly do it up and down. I usually go up and down when it comes a little closer to me, as if I'm standing right there in this land. But as you take away paint and add it on, you will start thinking about direction, just like you would in a brush stroke. So it's important to think that way. I'm just not quite doing that yet.
Do you ever just tap at it and come up with different textures that you
Yeah, that's
leave
great.
in there?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow, what's that? Oh, it's cotton, you know? Yeah, what, it's
Look
something,
at that next stuff coming up now.
it does happen, yeah. Sometimes it ends up being like
Yeah.
flowers, you know?
Yeah.
You go with your imagination.
Yeah, and that's actually why I like this technique. It forces me to, I have to be quick because I do have a window of time that the paint's gonna get thick and not workable.
Stay loose.
And basically, this is my composition. So you think of it as a skeleton. I'm not drawing on the canvas with a paintbrush, and that's certainly a valid and very good technique. And I have done that. I did that when I did that portrait. I had to.
So you had to.
I had to. But I still did technique with it. So I still did kind of get as loose as I could be with that. You can't be loose with a face, 'cause it's gotta have eyes in the right place. But,
Yeah, unless you're.
unless you're Picasso, right?
Picasso.
Sometimes a little brush stroke kind of just tells you what you were doing. You have to move around. I'm moving around, I know I'm in your way, but sometimes it's the way the light hits it.
Catch the sheen on it.
Right, so I'm gonna step away because I haven't done that enough. I know I've said that you need to step away, but if you don't step away, you don't see the mistakes. And also the other tool that I probably didn't talk about in 2014 when I was here last, or I think that's when I was here, is just take photos with your phone a lot, because you'll see it differently really quick. So I do that a lot. I feel like this is really boring right now, so I'm sorry about the boring painting.
Exciting.
But we'll make some excitement in the sky. I kind of like this sort of ethereal, like is it a tree? Is that, so I kind of get stuck in that a lot. I want to keep showing you different things, so compositionally I'm thinking through lights, darks, positive, negatives. And you can sort of see I'm not pushing as much energy into the paint. I'm kind of feathering it a little bit. And that's just a feel. You just have to kind of get used to the feel. I've done this on canvas. And if I do use canvas, I like a linen that's, there's a master brand that's Utrex makes. Oh, it's not Utrex anymore.
Actually, they still
Are they? I didn't bring any of that today. I haven't done it in a while. But you can use this on canvas. There's a texture to the linen, so you can obviously get really super smooth linen. The one I used to like wasn't, and so it works just as well. It's probably a little harder to work than this, because this paint just sort of slides off for me. There's something about this, like I was saying about this gesso board. They have little pimples in it, and I love those pimples because it kind of goes along with my flavor of what I'm doing. You may find it, like it doesn't work for your style, what you're trying to do, but it works for me. So what I think is boring about this is this line looks kind of straight, like, so I'm gonna maybe, let's just do a little of this, see if that makes it a bit better. I don't know what I wanna do here. All right, so I told you that I don't use a lot of, I suggested you do not use any Gamsol at all, which is the mineral spirits, at all yet, in the oil mixture the paint that I mixed up. But I'm gonna use it now, and I'll show you why. So let's just say you want a really bright white, and you wanna get your value range larger. So I'm gonna do that really quickly. With my finger, again, I just dip it right in the Gamsol, or Tostitos. And I start to dance with it.
Do you do this with music?
Never. I listen to podcasts, so I have to repeat them because I never really listen to them. But it kind of throws everything off a little bit, so I'm not worrying about.
Listen, you're making you wispy clouds.
I am. Who doesn't love a good wispy cloud?
Oh, we all love them.
Right, so there's only a little bit of water or Gamsol on there. And I'm not really taking a lot off. But see, it has this kind of,
Glow.
it has a weird kind of edge to it. And I'll soften that edge in a moment, once I think, I decide I like it or not. Can you see that? I want everyone to be able to see that because it has like a little ghosty look to it. Sometimes I capitalize on that because I like it. And sometimes I think, oh, that's way too, harsh.
Yes.
Sure, everybody gets a chance to see that. You see it okay?
Yeah.
All right. Now I'll get rid of this. I'll get rid of this, because if I use it again, I feel like it's too powerful for me. So if I want to soften those edges, which I showed you, I'll just kind of like feather them, a little tapping going on. Sometimes I leave a little bit of it because I like that little mistake. And if I don't like it enough, I can get it almost down to the white. If I use more Gamsol, I can get it completely down to the white. That kind of just sort of created a little cloud. Kind of like that cloud. So, again, I'm trying not to like it too much because
Don't fall in love.
I don't want to fall in love with it.
Might be gone soon.
You can't help it, right? You can't help it. We're
Don't
artists.
fall in love with it, yeah.
We're artists. All right, so now that I've done that, now I see this is way too dark. So it's all relative. That's why I work on the whole thing as much as I can at once. Some artists can start one place and they'll just know that they'll be able to finish it. I can't do it like that. I wish I could. So I think this is too dark, so I'm going to take a little of this away. I think the value is just too deep for the light sky. So I use enough oil that it's really easily pulling off. Still too dark. Interrupt that line a little bit. Even though that line's there, I might take away, and I might add some back in. That's the beauty, just go back and forth. And you can see I just used this one brush. You can certainly use smaller brushes if that's more your comfort zone. I try not to use a lot of brushes at first, because then especially the littler ones, you're just gonna get fussy. If you're trying not to be fussy, which I'm trying not to be fussy, that's why I use the bigger brush. But whatever you're comfortable with. So it's important to remember that when you're looking at a landscape, it's always dark in the foreground and it goes lighter, so just the way atmosphere is and such. So to get the sense of distance, and this is a very small space that I'm giving you, that we're standing, we're looking far out. We're actually way out there by the scale of these trees. So that's why I'm lighter and I'm going darker. Using my finger to kind of get some accents in there. And just maybe, because we have so much light up here and so much dark down here, let's balance it out a little bit compositionally and maybe get some lighter lights in here. Maybe it's water, I don't know.
It's not looking like it.
Yeah. And now I might start pulling directionally some paint away in a way that looks like grass. I'm suggesting, these are all suggestions. It's really I want you guys, or the viewer of my artwork, to see what you see, not necessarily what I'm painting. Do you know what I'm saying? Like what you see, you may say, oh, I recognize that as a place where I've been. That's awesome. That's what we see.
It looks like college.
Then that's what it is.
Whatever you say, right? No, it looks like the Herring River.
And sometimes I just get kind of mad at it.
Hero boats are anchored.
Like, take more paint away.
Yeah.
It's still way too dark over here. I also want to interrupt that line so it doesn't look like there's just a line running across the whole edge of the painting. Maybe maybe the foreground's like a bunch of bushes, I don't know. Let's see. I'm going to use a little bit more of the Gamsol. I've decided it is water, so let's give it some highlights. And maybe I'll make that a little brighter. I'll extend it over here. Yeah, I'm a little nutsy, I know, it's crazy. And now let's step back. I should be doing this more often. I'm going to tell you guys, if you ever do this, you need to step back a lot. So you need a big space. Then you need to walk away, come back. You'll see different things. Get the squint. Causes wrinkles, it's okay. So I have a lot of light, a lot of medium, and I have a lot of dark. I still think I need a little bit more sort of a medium ground, which, just a quick assessment. Any quicker questions while I keep going here?
So do you ever paint on location at all, or just?
I have.
Good.
I think that's really hard. I bless anyone that can do it. It's just so hard. The hard part about that, you can certainly do it at night, and that's certainly you can certainly do that with this technique. But besides the fact that you gotta plug your paint and all the hard stuff that goes along with that, then I'm stuck making the tree look right where it belongs. So that's, that's different. That takes away from what I'm trying to pull off. Because, yeah, if you have to put the tree where you see it, then you might not make the same decisions that make the painting a good painting, compositionally. But by all means, applaud anyone that can do that. I've tried it, and it's just hard work.
You work from the inside out.
I do work from the inside out. It's a good observation. Kind of, yeah, I guess I
It's
do.
exciting to see.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Intuitive painter.
Thank you. I don't know. It's what I love. If you don't paint what you love, then you're not gonna enjoy it. It usually isn't as good. It doesn't mean you can't paint it. When I'm asked to do commissions, I find them difficult because, first of all, someone has a vision and it may not be what I have. So, they're hard. Commissions are my hardest pieces. I do like them because certainly they're worth money, so.
This looks like it would be a perfect thing to do. Rainy, thundery skies.
Yeah, people all think, are you really dark? And anyone really knows me, I'm really not that way at
No,
all.
absolutely
Right, I'm really,
nothing like
I'm
that.
really a very happy-go-lucky person, but I do like the dark things a lot. I
They're
do like
moody
the dark.
and
I do.
interesting and
I-
mysterious.
I like the tonalist period, if you ever study that. There's a whole, obviously a bunch of people you can look that do that. And then the luminous. George Ennis is, do you know he's from Medfield?
Yes, I do. I know.
Yeah,
It's on Broadway.
who knew, right? I knew that, I just found that out recently. Yeah, no, I study his work. Because his trees have that, there's something about the way he paints too. Very intuitive painter. His colors were amazing. Yeah, no, I love George Ennis. Anything else? Are we ready for a break? You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
We'll take I guess we're gonna get started on the next stage. I have business cards if you want, and if anyone did not get a handout, I'm happy to get you one. So you can take one of these and send me a quick email. Is my email even on here? Yes, it is.
Your website's on there.
Yes, my website is as well. Yes, please take a peek at my website. I'm very pleased with it because I had someone do it for me years ago. It was awesome. She did a great job. But every time I wanted to update it, I had to go through her. So there's so many great templates out there and platforms. So I did finally get around to doing my own. It's pretty easy once you kind of get into a system. It's Squarespace one, so that's what I use. But so feel free to grab one of these. All right, so what I thought might be a nice way to kind of do a little second quick demo is you saw me quickly go through, what I call my tonal. It could be the first stage. Sometimes I'll leave my paint. If I'm happy with it, it stays just like this. If I thought it was finished, I would oil it out first, which is a process you use before you add more color on. It evens out the color of the paint. It evens the surface out, easier to paint on top. You can only do that when it's dry. Otherwise, the paint would just pick up with it. So
What kind of oil? Is that the oil that you?
the oiling out process that I use is it's a Gamblin 50/50. It's Galkid, which is one of their mediums. And it's written on your handout too. It's Galkid and Gamsol 50/50.
Yep.
So I just eyeball it, but you can mix it, like with a cup. If you had a cat, you have cat food containers. So I'll put like Gamsol in one and Galkid, and I make sure it's even. Then I pour it in and mix it up. It's that simple. That's your oil out.
So you wait till that's totally.
Yep, I would wait for that to be totally dry before I did that. And I would do that on all stages of painting. So these have been oiled out already. I'm ready to paint on these. So I'm gonna show you like the next step. That's what this next sort of phase of the demo.
You apply that with a brush?
Yep.
or-
Yep. The way and you can go online and watch the gentleman from Gamblin do it, but I watched it so many times I can show you. So you would say you mix your gal kit in here and your Gamsol and you mix it. It looks almost like it's very fluidy. It's just very light. And you coat your surface. And although I don't have any, we'll pretend that this is a cheesecloth. And then after you let it sit for like 2 minutes, then you wipe it off. And it sort of sits into the surface. And you can, you'll just naturally know, you'll see it. You'll see it kind of, you don't want it to puddle anywhere.
And you use this so you can put more paint over it?
Yeah, and in this case, I do it between layers. It kind of, is that the right way to phrase it? It's an
Between
actual
layers, yeah.
layer.
It's in the layer,
It's-
yes,
it-
it becomes part
It
of it.
becomes part of the painting, so structurally, it's the right way to do it. I used to use liquid, and that's not, some people use liquid. I guess liquid's okay. What is, I used to use something else that isn't okay.
Retouch varnish.
Retouch varnish. People use retouch varnish. I don't even know what's in it, just, it's called retouch varnish.
Yeah.
And
So your
it's,
glaze,
It like tacks it up.
It does
So you
tack
can
it up.
paint over it,
The
right?
point of oiling out is some paints get sucked into the surface and other paints stay on top. So this one that's sucked in becomes matte looking,
Yeah.
whereas
Right.
the stuff on top becomes glossy. So you put that in, oiling it out makes it all this gloss. or
right,
matte.
or
It
it evens it
becomes-
out, right, brings all the things, right. And it actually helps you paint, because in this case, you just see one color, because it's all one color, it's a tonal. But if you were to do a painting like, if you were to go on to here, you can see, this is about 3 weeks old, drying, it's been sitting around my studio. That's actually another thing I do, I have paintings everywhere. They're on the ground, they're on the wall, and the beauty of that is you go, oh, I wanna work on that one now, you pick it up and all of a sudden, or you're like, this ain't working, It goes, yeah, exactly, but it's important to do that too, because then you're not married to one thing, sometimes it
so
kinda helps you.
velocity involved in working.
Tons.
Yeah.
That's why I like working small, you can spit those things out. So I was starting to say before I got silly, you can see that green is a little dead. The blue is not so bad. If I was to, and I didn't bring any oiling out with me to show you, but if you oil it out, it would all just be nice, soft, with just kind of nice glaze over the whole thing. Doesn't mean it's shiny, if there's a satiny finish to it, but then I would apply more paint to that. So this started out just like this, a tonal. Then I added some color in, a couple hours worth, not a lot. And that's how I got to this stage. And then I put it aside for a while. I start and stop all the time. And sometimes I feel like finishing works, sometimes I feel like starting works. Sometimes I have to finish works. Sometimes I don't want to finish works, but I really will. So I try to do a little bit of both, because I feel like I'm a little more free when I do these starts, and then I start to tighten up in my decision making when I start adding color. And not all works has to have color, but in this case, I want to show you that process real quick with these two pieces. Does that sound good?
Yep.
All right. So here's my very expensive palette. I'll use my same knife. I'll just clean it off. I was asked a question, do I use the wipe-off technique when I put on color? You betcha. Because I feel like I'm not a great painter. So if I do this, I can make mistakes, I can wipe it off. So it just makes it easy. So I'm gonna start, let's just put some, I don't have a lot of colors. I didn't bring my whole toolbox. Just brought some interesting colors to try. Here's that Titan, Williamsburg. I don't think I have that written on your list. It's a very high quality paint. It's a handmade paint. I mean, I guess they're all considered handmade, but they're not. This is one of the few, right? They just have a few colors that I really love. This is the substitute for the zinc buffs that I really liked. And it's a little creamier. The other color had a little more peach to it. The white did. So I'm trying to like it. I haven't decided yet. But but they're not making it anymore, so I appreciate a company that understands that we need to be safe, so, even though it's not really what I love. So I'm using cobalt blue, Titan buff from Williamsburg, the rest are all gambling colors. Let's see if there's any paint in it. Let's go. Radiant blue. So I'm using radiant blue, cobalt, and Titan buff for now. And I always try to throw its complement in there. Complement of blue is orange. There it is. So I'll always have its complement on the palette, and I just gotta sneak that in as I mix. And I'm gonna use a little of my glazing medium. You don't have to use it. You can use Galkid, you can use linseed oil. There's not much left. There's like a drop left, so just enough to get me, to show you what I'm trying to show. Now these are littler paintings, so I'm gonna give myself the luxury of a smaller brush. And I like I like these really soft ones. These I think they're like, these aren't really good brushes. They're sable, like a sable substitute. Or they are sable, I don't know. But I don't like to spend a lot of money on my brushes because I'm kind of hard on them. And a good artist would tell you to always mix your paint with your palette knife. I don't always do that, but. So I'm just gonna see if I can find a color I like. I'm putting it, because I'm not using a lot of it and I don't have a lot of, I'm doing the work on the sky first. Just like I start my tonals, I'll start my color with that. Let's see what happens here. I'll just throw a touch of it, just a touch to dirty it up a little bit. I'm just sort of skirting that orange in there. Just to dirty it up a little bit. Otherwise, you never want it to look like it's straight from the tube. I mean, it's a little different story when you're maybe doing abstract work, maybe, I don't know. You can see how quickly it can shift to green, right?
Yeah.
That orange really did that, so that's why I have to be careful. Gamblin has a bunch of radiants that are just gorgeous colors. There's a lot of white in them, so they do take sometimes some time to dry. Radiant turquoise is one of my favorites. And by adding the blue, the cobalt, you can see how it got a lot colder. So I don't know what I feel like right now, so I kind of like that color right now, but it may look totally different and way too light once I get it on there. I can't tell until it's on there because it's all relative. We're on white, and that's already in tonal stage. So I have the blending medium in that cup there. And that just thins it out a little bit. And I really work this fast, even when I'm putting in color. Because Viva is here.
Your brush, your finger brush.
My finger brush. Yes, I joke about it all the time, but everyone knows in my work, I do a lot of work with my fingers. Now, when you put white, technically on any darker, it's called scumbling, so we're kind of scumbling this. And it totally changed everything right there, didn't it?
Yeah.
Made everything really cold.
Very nice.
Yeah. And you might not like it, areas like I don't like what I just did, so it comes right off. And the beauty is because that's been oiled out, I'm not going to take paint off. Right.
So are you using Gam Sal for that?
Yep. Just because it went into the trees, that's not the way I wanted it.
So you could begin again and over and over again?
With color, yeah, yeah.
That's nice.
It does sort of leave a,
nice soft movement.
yeah, right. So it totally made it cooler by adding that blue. So even though I said good artists use palette knives, I don't always. I can't be bothered. I can't be slowed down. It just slows me down. So that's why I have cheap brushes, because I ruin them. You know, it makes the bristles all gunky and stuff. Gunky, that's a technical term. I have no preconceived ideas. I honestly did not know I'd be doing this for you guys tonight. This sort of kind of just popped in my head as a nice, for people that have seen my workshops before, my demos before, they probably haven't had time to see this sort of part of the process. So I wanted to add this in. And maybe, just maybe that's water back there, so that gives me an excuse to put blue down here. This is where you gotta be straight or water looks like it's falling. I'm sure it's not, but I'm just saying. And I'll take away and put back on. And they just take a little bit away, little stops. It's almost, if you do it enough, it almost just, you just do stuff and you're like, oh, what happened? That's something I really love when that happens. They are.
And you've got nothing to lose anyway.
You wipe it off, you don't like it.
That's so true. I mean, there is a point where it kind of gets a little overworked. And you can, it's not foolproof completely, but if it doesn't work, you just toss it away and then look at it later. Sometimes some things you can make better after you walked away from it, sometimes years. I've got paintings I've picked up that I started years ago that I like, oh, I feel like that's what I should be doing with this now.
Paintings talk to you.
I guess. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just gonna add a little of this. This is another color of mine that I enjoy. It's actually a Rembrandt color, and I think that is on your list. It's a transparent red, transparent oxide red. It's a transparent color to begin with, but it does can make things nice and red. And you can see how I'm using my brush. I'm really kind of just shoving it in. Now, I'm not really sure where the land is, or where the trees end and where these, you know, because I've got sort of these brown stuff in the sky still, but I kind of like that. I want you to think about what that is. Sometimes I try to determine what it is, and sometimes I let it be what it is. As long as it's interesting. You know, I mean, if it doesn't have a good composition, it's not interesting, there's something that, you know, your eye keeps stopping somewhere, then that's not good either, so.
Now, Tina, when you finish up a painting like that, that's that size, about price-wise, what would you sell that for?
$275 framed.
Yeah.
If I'm selling it through a gallery, for sure, you know. $250, $275, that's always been my selling point for these sizes. I've never been disappointed. I've gotten a lot of, it's a small price, it's not inexpensive, but it's a nice size for people to be able to put in their homes, so that's the other beauty of this size that works. I've done large pieces and people can't fit them, you know, and then it costs, you know, so much more to frame, understandably. I'm gonna try a little gold in there too. This is gold ochre. Gamblin makes this. It's kind of a neat color, very different. It has it's not just dull like yellow ochre. It has a little, I don't know what it has in there, a little orange, I guess. And depending on how much of medium you use, it'll be, you know, depending on how thick the paint goes on. Get a little bit there. Now, I think the sky over here needs a little work. Let's put some let's mix that white, that Titan white with the gold that I just used. Sometimes I like to see if that, I don't want it to be too yellow. All right, so I used the Titan white, the gold, and a little bit of the transparent red oxide. I believe in the color has to be everywhere in the painting in some format. Doesn't mean it has to be everywhere. Let's see if that's too orange. Doesn't look like it's doing anything. Can't see it at all. Interesting.
It's very subtle.
Let's do a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more.
Get your glasses.
Sorry.
You say, put your glasses on.
He did. So, and then again, like I said before, you have your towel, which I use probably more than I should to take away or blend. All right, because I said we can do it, let's stop and go over here real
What a
quick.
difference in feeling with that yellow.
So quick, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So, just because for demonstration purposes, I think I did, another color I've been playing around with. Oh, that's not the color I wanted. All right, I'm gonna use some of Severs Blue. Rembrandt makes this. It's like a cerulean. All right, so it's a nice warm white, or warm blue. Now, I don't know, I may have done this yesterday, but today I felt like doing that. So that's the beauty, is that you just don't care.
It's free.
I'm not gonna say hundreds, but I have like 8 of these little guys lying around, ready for this next stage.
So you're trying it to see how it goes.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
He doesn't like it off.
yeah, I kinda like the ground, I like that dark.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little more abstract than I probably would be, but I'm playing around with colors, you know, I'm working with my gallery owner, and, you know, we talked about maybe I need to do something different just for my audience, so this is it, doing different colors. I still pretty much start the same way, but, you know, with tonals, but maybe you don't need to. I mean, these abstracts
I like those.
are just freeing, you know? They didn't start with a brown, I clearly didn't have brown, but you don't have to do a tonal with brown, you can do it with anything. So, that's important to kind of just give yourself that freedom to do that.
How long have you been painting?
2001, so, yeah, I started taking workshops in 2002, 2003. And took a couple workshops from a couple different painters, and some luminists. Joseph McGraw, he's pretty famous now.
Yes.
Super nice man. I really liked his studies that he did. He did studies on site. You were talking about painting on site. But all the work was done on site. His paintings were, I love those. I love his work, but I really loved his studies because I clearly like that fresher. Yeah, but his studies were amazing. I was like, I want that, you know. And then I was working with Dennis Sheehan up in New Hampshire, and Bill Davis, William Davis, who, you know, he's also a luminist. Super nice people. I prefer their studies over. I mean, that's just more what I'm looking to do myself. But their work is clearly crazy amazing. Let's just see. Any questions? Keep asking, please. I'm running out of things to talk about.
Watch what are you doing?
All right, I'm gonna add a little brown, a little Van Dyke brown, and see what happens with that blue. I want to see what that does. I don't always know. I'm not as careful with my color mixing as I probably should be.
No, I love the looseness of it, I really do, I think it's fantastic.
That just kind of made it darker. That's all. Let's see. I can't even really tell. Again, it's all relative, like now that it looks darker, a lot darker here, but doesn't do anything up there. Take some of that away. So again, back and forth, back and forth.
Do you do color studies, playing around?
I think this is my color study. I don't think I really think about it like that, but I think I do, yeah.
You're a total free spirit. Oh, really? It's awesome.
Well, I would like to consider myself classically trained
Oh, yeah.
as an artist, but I went to school and I ended up going into the commercial world, so I didn't really get to play with this very much. So I understand the importance of being like composition and all that, because the school I went to, design was important. So design is this is all we're doing is design, right? Problem solving, that. But I guess it was because I did toy design for so long. It's very, you have to be very careful. Everything has to be designed just right, and kids can't get hurt, and it has to sell, and it has to hit a price point. I've always wanted to do this. I wanted to be a watercolorist. Chris, I admire your work very much. Your work's beautiful. And I started, like I said, I started there, but it wasn't as freeing as I wanted. And once I found this, and once I walked away from photo reference, is where I started feeling like, if free spirit's the right word, that's what I felt like, yeah. So. And again, if you don't like that, you can always take it away with some Gamsol on your finger. Sometimes I just like kind of tap at it until I like it. And I keep moving this, I'm not explaining it, I'm moving it so I'm not touching that, because you'll see the wet spot, or it'll take maybe too much away.
Could you use just pure blending, glazing, whatever that you have to make that blue go like, say, the horizon, but it would be a stronger?
Oh, yeah, you mean thin it out? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know, I'm asking.
Yeah, no, you would definitely could. That's probably the right way to do it. I don't know if paper towels are the right way, but that's possibly, yeah, let's try that. So so there's that blue, and it's loaded with that medium. So you can see it's thinning out. Can you see that?
Mhm.
There is a point of no return though. You can thin it too much, and then you'll know it right away because the paint is kind of puddles. So there is a. I don't know where I want to put that. I like that white there, so let's put it down here. Yeah, that's probably yeah, that works. That was a good question. I think the brown, now that I've added the blue in there, I think I need to warm up the brown. It's a little cold to me for the blue. And I could do that, with anything. I could do it with that red. I didn't bring all my paints. Let's try it with the red and see what happens. If it's too red, because I don't want it to be that. I want it to be. Too much? Oh, I like it. And then, because I put it in there, I'll probably put some up here too. Sometimes it mixes and it looks terrible, but sometimes it's just right, so let's go along with it's just right now. Right?
Yeah.
And then I might dance that into the white a little bit so again, like I'm trying to make color everywhere. Maybe that white isn't white anymore. Maybe I've just decided it's not. Maybe I'll make it white again. I'll make it partially white again. And I'm really not happy over here, so it's important to have that understanding of freedom, that you can change it. And then the
Look at
colors,
how nice, it looks like a nice ghost picture, it's pretty.
so now, yeah, sometimes those happen. Can't say I planned that, but I guess my point is to prove how easy it is to take it off, you know? And then I probably would let that, you know, I would let that dry. I might re-oil it out before I, you know, play with it again. Unless I loved it. You can almost get it back down to its normal. Sometimes that color kind of stains. You can see it's definitely more yellow now. That's fine.
You can oil it out more than once.
Oh, you can oil it out every time, as long as it's dry.
Okay.
And then you oil out before you varnish. So after you're all done, you're happy, 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 let it dry to the touch, and then you can oil it out.
How long does it take to dry?
It depends on the colors you use. Whites take you a long time. Yellows, whites, also depends on the type, the brand of paint. I don't use a lot of white. I did in, you know, both those examples, but I didn't use a lot. It's not heavy. It's not like I did with a palette knife, so. These would dry maybe in a week. So you can oil it out and then. Oiling out can satisfy until you're ready to varnish it.
Do you do that on a canvas? or
Yep,
just the board?
absolutely. No, absolutely. You should always do that. Yeah, it's actually a very important step to do. Any other questions I can answer?
I just wondered, do you do that just on the tonal paintings or on all paintings?
What's that, the oil?
The oil.
You should do it on all paintings. It's just a natural process for oils because your paint I didn't have an example, but your paint will dry differently. So your green might suck into the canvas more than say a white might sit more on top and be, you know, just depends on the color and it also depends on the brand of paint. I believe different brands do, you know, they dry differently. And that's just the nature of the chemical nature of it. And once you oil it out, you'll see that it's easier for you to paint because you can see the colors properly. One isn't dark and one isn't bright. You know, one might be glossy, one might be dull. How do you paint on that? You don't know what that dark, once you put that oiling out, it brings it back up to its color that it looks when it's wet. It makes everything look kind of wet. I mean, you can work on it right away. You don't have to let the oiling out dry. You can oil out and start painting right away. It's awesome. Or you can oil it out and paint it the next day. Doesn't matter. It dries pretty quickly because it's got Gamsol in it. So Gamsol is a thinner, so it's gonna dry quickly. And Galkit is, if you use half and half, it'll dry pretty quickly.
So you oil out and you do something else?
You can. It depends on what you're doing. So like, for example, these came in as tonals, and before I brought them to you, I oiled them out so I could paint on them.
Okay.
In most cases, when, you know, maybe more typical painter might have a painting that's full of different colors, those colors are gonna dry at different rates. One might end up drying glossy, one kind of, they call it sucking in, it kind of looks like it's sunk into the canvas. It's actually just dulled out. So the oiling out process evens it out, so you can see the colors better, so you can add more to it. You might decide after you oil out, I'm done with this now, because it looks great just like it is, and then now you're ready to varnish. That's the reason for the oiling out. It helps you make that decision.
So liquid?
I'm not,
I don't know.
I used to use liquid. I guess because I've become a gambling snob, I don't anymore. It also smells horrible and used to give me horrible headaches.
Yeah.
So, some people believe liquid, and I'm not gonna say I don't use it. I suppose it could be used as a medium. I don't know if it marries with paint as well as what I've used, the oiling out. So if you really if you're planning on using paint on top of it, like if you're using it as a barrier, I wouldn't use it as a barrier. You want the paint to be structurally all the way through to the canvas. All the paints are stuck together. If you add paint on top of something that isn't oiled out, or you have a barrier, it's on top of that barrier. Does that make sense? I mean, long term, I suppose, you know, maybe many years from now, it might crack. I mean, I guess that's the purpose, one of the reasons. Is that fair? Oh, I was just saying, if you don't oil it out, if you.
Well, so varnish is made to be removable, so oiling out is like a protective, so nothing else gets beyond.
Okay, now this is a whole new process I never hear a whole lot about.
It's been there forever. It's been there forever.
Do you treat the surface of the masonite board before you do your
No.
boundary sketch?
Do not.
It's on the,
It's
There's
right-
two
it's all ready to
different kinds
go.
of masonite
Mhm.
boards. Now, which masonite?
I use
board?
gesso board.
Use gesso board.
It's called gesso board. It's a company named Ampersand makes it.
Right, right.
They make clay board, they make, they must make a watercolor board too.
They make something called aqua board.
Aqua board, that's right. So they make boards for all different mediums.
What did you do with the paint?
Oh, you asked me maybe like what I might have done with this piece? This was, because
No,
of
if you put it, not a gesso, but a surface, because there's two different kinds of gesso board too. I mean masonite board.
You can buy masonite that's prepared.
Right.
I don't, and I think I,
Because you can go to RISD and you.
yes, it's all ready to go. Is it painted like with a gesso?
No, it's not painted.
You have to paint it yourself.
Right.
I don't wanna bother with that.
It's-
I'm lazy
She's
as
good to
sin.
go.
But I also don't care for that, cause then, well, you have to do that right.
Well, isn't there a masonite board that's oily, and then there's another masonite board? When you buy.
You know, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay.
I have
You
bought,
buy these individually, you
Yep.
never go and have.
yeah, it looks just like I was, it comes in a
All different
package,
sizes.
and it's always the same thing, it looks just like
Yeah.
this.
It looks like a paint you might
It looks
do.
like a painting, I know, I love
It
this.
looks like a
I
painting
love
you
this
might
painting.
do.
Look at those purples, huh?
Yeah.
The oiling out, I didn't write it down before, it's Galkid and Gamsol?
Gamsol,
mixed
both are
half and half?
Gamblin products, Gamblin
Okay.
makes it. If
All
you
right,
go on the
thank you.
Gamblin website, there's a bunch of techniques that you can click on, and you can find, I think it might be under the medium one. I've hunted in export for a while, but I've watched him oil out, and because I was curious too. I didn't always, I used to use liquid, and I used to use, retouch varnish all the time. And that's actually the old people did it that way, like masters might have used retouch, I don't know. They made it themselves, I believe, I think that's why it's called retouch. In a way, Gamsol is really a type of retouch, because it's Gamsol, the Gamsol is the thinner, just like they would have with retouch varnish, would then probably use the Damar, what is it called? Damar varnish, which is what I used to use, but I don't use it anymore, because it yellows, it cracks, and I can't take it off. I have taken, you can put varnish on this if you use the Gamvar, and you say, you know, that painting's not done. You can take it off very easily. You know, you might have a little paint coming off, sometimes paint, I think it's called migration, paint kind of comes to the surface, the powdery part. And you might see a little on your, but if it's dry when you varnish it, it should be fine. You can take it off and then work on your painting again.
Right.
Because as artists, we're never done, right?
Right.
When are you done? You're done when you sign it, and sometimes you're not.
Even you go to the lady with
It's
the
done
lights,
when
I
you
want to
sell
tell
it.
you, God, against that.
Exactly.
It's done when you sell it and it leaves your own.
There you go.
I thought it.
Also, what was the first luminist you mentioned, George?
Joseph McGurl, and I think it's MGURL. Maybe there's a C there, it must be MGURL. McGurl, I'll look it up.
That's all right.
Joseph McGurl, he's actually, I believe he's relatively local. He does show out in, on the Cape at Trace Place. Oh, his work is, you know, $70,000 paintings.
Very detailed and
Super
very
detailed, super glowy. It's like the Hudson River Valley School stuff, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But he's more modern.
You can tell he puts tons of work into it.
Tons, I really like this. I was like, can I have that?
Is that 70 permanent?
Yeah, I know, I just want that one for like nothing. I actually got the idea for paper was from Dennis Fan. I saw a bunch of stuff on his, under his desk, I was like, what are those? And there were these little studies like this, and that's what kind of made me even more freer by walking away from photorealism and then not worrying about the surface so much. You know, you can buy a 3-pack of these for like $3, $4, maybe a little more. But they're always on sale at Dick's, right? Everything's always on sale. But I never buy full price. I always get it on sale. Free shipping if you buy enough.
Those little ones at Gessel board also?
Absolutely. It's my favorite, you know. It just, the paint slips off of it. I still work on canvas from time to time, and if I do, it's linen. It's a linen type. So I guess that might be, are we wrapping up? Are we good?
That's perfect. Thank you very much.
We don't see this.
Good thing you're down to
Oh.
Can I get a picture?
Sure.
With the,
With the finished product? Well, it's not finished, but we're gonna save it for now.
Yes, you will.
Oh, you won? Awesome. I hope you enjoy it.
I think people need to finish working on it before I start a whole other thing.
Thank you.
And I think some people like, you want to do a final project of your own.
That's all right.
You know, their own,
I have
whatever
business
they
cards if you
feel
want
like
them.
painting, you know. So I'll see if anybody wants it all. I'll do that on their own class. And I'll walk you through the dark project. Whatever makes people happy, I'll tell you.